Welcome to your Eve Echoes weekly news update. I'm Damon Zale, and if you tag that subscribe button and ring that bell, then you can stay up to date with everything that this channel has to offer. Okay, we've had the biggest patch of the game thus far, plus the rebalancing. Now, because of its size, this patch has been postponed by 2 hours. Now, we went over all the rebalancing in a previous video, and they added a lot beyond just the adjustments, so I won't be touching on every one of those today. Just know to check your fits and rethink some of the fights you're going to get into, because not only have the ships been rebalanced, but also all the weapon systems as well. Faction ships will be hitting a lot harder now, resistances have been changed across the board, and some ships even had their overall EHP reduced. I'm going to throw a link in the description below to all the changes made in this rebalancing, but let's dig into these other changes that they made along with this patch. A new type of supply box will be introduced in the form of a module blueprint box, and these can be obtained as rewards for transport missions. They've increased the player cap in major trade hub systems such as Jita, Amar, Dodixie, and that one in Mimitar space that no one ever goes to. Contracts can now be shared in Corp, Alliance, and all custom channels. Now, the Halloween event has now ended, so all those modules that were in those will be more abundant now, because they're going to be starting to drop from your anomaly and your scout sites, so expect to see the price on these come down quite a bit as they flood the market. All the NPC AI has been upgraded, so expect those encounters and enums to be a bit harder, as they will now be equipped with the correct damage modules and will be using them. They will also be using E-War as well as logistics, so expect to see them repping each other as well. Daily logging rewards can now be accepted while in an outpost. Such a great quality of life change for those of us living out in Null. They've changed that standing bug for local, so an accurate standing will now be shown in real time. Another quality of life change to the daily logging rewards, where you can now hit a claim all button instead of claiming each one individually. To those of you flying bestowers, your structure cargo hold can now be utilized further. You can now transport all structure service centers and structure modules. Those Inquisitor and Scout cores that we got up until this point that were not tradable before can now be traded and put on the market. Scholar points can now be traded in for a shuttle. There's a new permission log that's now present within the Corp, so members can now view the permissions changes of all the members. If you ask anyone, they'll tell you how buggy the patch was last week, and I'm sure with this patch and the size of it, we're going to get a lot more from this week. But let's take a look at the few fixes they fixed with this patch. One of the biggest fixes that people have been clamoring for has finally been addressed. The devs have fixed the security level display for 14 low-sec systems. These 14 systems were labeled as 00, however, they had sentry guns which gave you a false sense of safety to kill as you please, but only to get blapped by the guns when you landed on the grid. These systems will now show as a 0.1 system. They fixed the issue where your local list couldn't be put away. They fixed the bug where your industry tab would not display the correct amount of raw materials needed, as well as the collision issue with outposts. And they fixed the issue with the Dramiel, Cinnabol, and Macarial, which was not displaying the 50% jump acceleration. This marks the 3rd month that the game has been live, and in honor of that, the devs will be doing a weekly FAQ with the community. That's right, they want to hear from you and get your feedback on how they're doing and what they can do to improve the game. You can submit your feedback via the in-game banner. Every week, the devs will answer some of your questions and publish the complete Q&A in the game across their community channels. As an added incentive for submitting your feedback and questions, everyone that participates will be entered to win a free 1-month Omega clone. Sometimes being a content creator does have its perks. NE Nero contacted us with some information about some upcoming changes to Outpost that's also going to give us a gleam into the future of Sovereignty. No longer will the Outpost just serve as a docking port deep in Null. They will be introducing new modules for these outposts. These 4 modules are the PI Benefit Module, Compressed Ore Module, Compressed Ore Belt Creation Module, and the last but certainly not least, a Moon Ore Mining Module. Now this is a lot to unpack, so let's go through each because Nero gave us a little more info to go on. The PI module, and this is where it gives us the gleam and possibility of how sovereignty is going to work. First off, this mod will speed up the mining time, planets, array, and the cargo container size of each planet. To be honest, I'm not really sure what they mean here by the last note. Only thing I can infer is that your PI planet, if it's in that system when you launch your PI, it'll be near your outpost. And now the little bit that gives me some insight to the workings of SOV. This module will give the benefit for that entire constellation. It is only for the owner. Now I think this will extend to the corp, but I'm not sure. Now we were told in the past that the medium citadels coming in December are going to act as your TCU to claim sovereignty. And a bunch of us were wondering if we need to drop one of these citadels in each system. With this note, I believe they will work like this module. You can drop a corp citadel and claim SOV in that constellation. We won't know for sure until we get that SOV AMA later this month, but it does make me very hopeful. Let's move on to the other modules. The compress ore module is self-explanatory. It allows you to compress your ore, decreasing its size by 100 times for the mass transit. The compressed ore belt creation mod allows you to create one compressed ore belt each week, and the level will follow the security level of the system that outpost is positioned in. More details on the moon mining mod as well as this creation mod will be coming in the future. Tech level 8 will be achievable by a lot of pilots this week, so expect to see new ships out there, bigger guns, better mining skiffs, as well as a faction battleship. Keep in mind, with each new tech level reached, the market will explode and ebb and flow. Expect prices to soar on some items, as well as plummet in other areas. Now, Plex itself is currently soaring up towards that 500k mark, and it will only raise further this week as it's time to re-up your Omega clones, coupled with this new tech tier. We start off this week with the massive fight on the 6th that has seen the first outpost that was dropped in the game finally fall. This attack was coordinated by several alliances against the Silent Alliance and a few of their allies. The official list of participants are Fireflies, DSSL, Vendetta, Nomad, Archon of Galaxy, Honk, Terran Federation, Triple V, Earth Clan Alliance, The Forgotten, Guardians, Band of Brother, Boop, Old School, and Old Schools. This fight took place in Declan and RG9 Tech 7U, and the station was affectionately named Come at Bro. Out of those several alliances, 2 played key roles working the week prior to reinforce the timers, both shield and armor. Fireflies and DSSL worked tirelessly grinding these down. The structure timer opened up in the US time zone on a Friday night, and the combined forces set out to bring the structure down with about 800 pilots. The Silent Alliance knew of the incoming attack and assembled a defense CTA of 300 pilots. 16 hours prior to this timer pop, talks began between all these alliances to set each other blue for the engagement. This is where we start to fall down in the game mechanics due to server load and the standings bug. While on the silent side, calls for defense were going out 11 hours prior to the timer pop. Fast forward to an hour prior to the timer pop itself, the call was made to the forming fleet that the objective was turning from the station defense to outright kill farming. On the way to the engagement, multiple gate camps were set up by these new blues, but due to server lag and the standings delay, these blues were appearing as neutrals, and scores of ships were lost to blue fire, while also pinning down and killing silent forces late to the CTA fleet. Terran Federation committed 130 ships to this battle, while the bulk of the fleet was made up of Fireflies and DSSL, with other alliances kicking in anywhere from 40 to 100 pilots. The surrounding systems started spiking 40 minutes to the timer in excess of 500 as they filtered into the target system and landed on grid 300 km off the objective. The silent forces were balling up near the station in VNIs within the MOA Guardian bubbles, while another contingent of Stabber snipers balled up as support. Locals spiked to 700 just 15 minutes before the timer as the two sides collided. While more attackers filtered into the system, bringing the local count higher, silent allied forces of Obsidian were pinned down by Boop Fleet for about 30 minutes. At the height of the battle, the system count was up past 1,000, and this is where the game mechanics fell down. The servers were not capable of sufficiently supporting system fights of these numbers, especially with all these drone ships. Both sides were plagued by disconnects, modules cycling and firing once and then never damaging again. If any of you listening out there were part of that first dev battle in the first beta, it was exactly like that. With all of these bugs and mechanics working against both sides, fleets started dropping due to deaths and disconnects. The call was made on the offensive side to just focus on the station as the silent forces focused on the kill farming. I myself couldn't do anything this lag, so I shot to the sun where I picked fights with ships landing there. Tried to kill a manticore, but we both hit each other once and then just endlessly circled as neither of us could damage the other due to this broken node. Eventually the station fell to the onslaught of the attackers, while silent and allied forces repositioned on the two exit gates, ready to pick off forces leaving the system. Both sides look at this encounter as victories, the attackers with the objective achieved, while the defenders claim the ISK battle won. This battle goes to show that the server still is not ready for this type of battle that the players are waging, and we all hope that the time dilation patch will go a long way in rectifying this. Normally, I would end the story there, but there has been some contention over the ISK victory, with Silent claiming that they had killed over 24 billion while only losing 6 billion in ISK, with 4 of that being the station. Kill mails were posted, and then the controversy began to take shape that the numbers were being stacked and the losses not accurately reported. Individual pilots started digging into these lists while info was being fed to them from within the Silent Alliance Discord. These lists show ships killed that were not even in the system, nor the two adjacent systems. In fact, there was even an Executioner 2 kill in that stack from October 23rd. While on the losses side, reports came to me of Silent losing another 6 billion in ships that went unrecorded. And if we tie in the Allied losses, that number starts to stack up. Discrepancies were found in the total of 3 billion worth in kills being padded to the number. Once we take that away, we actually have a kill value of 20 billion, which is still a massive amount. The losses tallied to 16 billion, which was not reported, as well as the asset safety cost. When the station fell, it sent 7.3 billion M3 of minerals and ore to the nearest ITC, where they had to pay 15% of the estimated worth to get it back. The estimated worth was 35 billion. When we add all these numbers together, we have a total loss of 21 billion ISK. Now, you can shave off some of this as not actual Silent loss because they did have allies there and some of these losses were theirs. Reasons like this, where we have to rely on hand-counting kill mails and people being forthright about losses, is why I'm such a fierce advocate for kill boards in the game. Also, you don't have to take my word. I will have linked below both spreadsheets, the Silent Alliance internal one as well as the one worked on by several people wanting to report the truth. The war in the south rages on between Death Phantom and Genesis Federation, where losses are being felt on both sides. Genesis is showing that they are drawing close to 200 billion in damages to the DP forces and report that they have pushed them from faith and are making them feel the war crunch in Omsk as they continue to push the front lines eastward. Death Phantom leadership informs me that Genesis are the aggressors in this war, and yes, DP did fire upon them while blue, however leadership assures me that they had paid them back for those losses. DP claims that Genesis is using this war as a way to expand their empire out, and while talks were going on, Genesis continued to give chase and kill them while being blue. I'm also told that they tried getting in touch with them and went an entire week without a response. Currently, Death Phantom has killed 1 Genesis outpost in D-Tech P, however Genesis leadership states that this was just an empty station they deployed in DP's primetime so they could observe their battle tactics. They have also laid siege to the Get Station deep in Genesis territory in their home region of Esoteria. This war has taken a different turn though in the form of the Genesis accusation of botting against Death Phantom, showing multiple videos on Facebook and Reddit getting the community to rally behind them. DP has also levied botting accusations against Genesis and their home system of BZ. Leadership from Death Phantom told me that the bots are from a corp YKZZ and that they own more than 50 bot miners. This was the reason they were kicked from the Death Phantom Alliance. To me, these wars are now being focused on who can point to the other and yell botter the loudest. These wars should be waged on ground taken and ISK destroyed. And since we're talking about the war against bots, a mega coalition has been formed and blue status given between the Golden Horde Alliance, Genesis Federation, and the Silent Alliance. This megaforce will wage war against botting alliances and corps. They have no name nor formal logo. I kinda just like using this one right now. This does wage the question, couldn't one of these alliances in that coalition just levy the accusation of botting against their enemies to bring this behemoth down on that alliance? I caught up with Mamasaurus Rex and she wants to reassure the community that this will not be the fact and that full video evidence must be presented before any action will be taken. To me, it just seems like this is the start of a campaign against the Chinese alliances, but I'm told that this is not everyone versus the Chinese. But they recognize that NetEase might not be able to take action against China-based botters due to law restrictions held within, so they will activate the community and wage war in their name. While a little leery about this, we will keep an eye on them to see exactly what they accomplish against these botting players. This week I ran a story about the Crimson Null Kingdom and the downfall of their leadership. Now, I did reach out to them this week to find out exactly what's going on to change that since this story broke. The current state of affairs within the Crimson Null Kingdom, Lead Writer was experiencing burnout from creating the community that they all enjoy. In this, he agreed that a much-needed break was needed and handed the keys of the kingdom over to the council. Currently, Lead Writer is on break with his family and they patiently await his return. The kingdom has gone through a rebranding. While they maintain the Crimson Null Alliance, both for sentimental reasons and for Lead, they have created two new alliances signifying their new beginnings, Novus and Tillis. During this, their friends have been by their side and their relationships have never been stronger. They still reside in Ketch, and they are still a very active group of people enjoying the game. Lead had wanted to create a council originally, while the kingdom was the brainchild of Lead Writer. They are awaiting his return to discuss the future of both the Lead as well as the Alliance, but before his departure, he offered to take on an advisor role within the group. We all wish them well. We'll be keeping our eyes on them. And your tip of the week? When transporting over 1 billion in a covert ops frigate, never use autopilot. Now, if you need more news in your life, stop by the Allied News Network Discord, as well as its affiliated content creators, Rev Deuce, Eve Echoes Radio, Echoes of New Eden Podcast. Now, fly safe, have a great week, and as always, your enemy can never disrupt you from within a pod.